8 o'clock, live. Once again, let us go into the breach, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. You know what? Just as an impromptu thing, Joe and I had a little lineup that we're going to get into, and you're going to love these conversations. But you know what? Football, and I'm saying football because today was opening day. Well, Thursday night was opening night of football. The Chiefs and the Texans played. But officially, for the rest of the league, football started today. Football is now like Fredo. It's dead to us.
Yeah, I read in Twitter, Laura Ingraham posted that it was down 19%.
Yeah.
The opener. It should be down 99%.
Right.
You know something? This is how you move the needle. We've talked about this time and time again. You want to change the culture? Stop giving them money. And they'll change because they're not principled people. Mm-hmm. They're not deep people. They live on the surface. You change them by stop funding them.
That's right. That's right. And we fund them. I'm my hand to God. Okay. I think at one point this afternoon I was at my mother's. All right. So it's not like I had an opportunity to watch the Jets anyway. Okay. And if you want to win football games, what you shouldn't do is spot the other team 21 points. Okay. But that's the New York Jets for you. Just quickly glanced at it, turned it off. That was the extent of it. So I can't say the TV was off completely. I'm not watching the Jets. They did not come out for the national anthem. And to me, that's just as bad as doing all the other nonsense that these guys are doing because you're making millions of dollars. Now, see, this is the blue collar talk that Joe and I do here at this show, this kitchen table talk. Okay. I'm not interested in your causes and everything else. We look at things very simply because we have PhDs in common sense. Who oppressed you? All you football players, and even Colin Kaepernick, who oppressed you? You don't come out and honor the country that enabled you to go to school, in many cases with these guys, for free. When we talk about on this show all the time, where universities are costing $60,000 and $70,000, you went to school for free, okay, because athletic scholarships are offered to you by this racist country, all right, and then you want to stand in the locker room and not go out and stand up and put your hand on your heart for the national anthem and try to work within our system to change the things that you believe need to be changed, much like we would agree some things need to be changed or reformed. But this is what you do. All you blue-collar Americans that value football, I don't care if you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, I don't care who you are. And we're speaking specifically about football. Turn it off. Don't turn it on, okay? Don't buy the jerseys. Don't buy the tickets. Don't do any of it. Now, we weren't going to get into this topic, but I think it was today's opening day, and it's important. Now, whatever their end game is, whatever the left's end game is, either they want to feminize, using football again, feminize football by emasculating it, okay, or they want to drive it into the ground. So because ultimately their goal is to do away with football. I think it's a theory because it's too toxically masculine for them. Sends the wrong impression, right, Joe? Whatever their end game is. I'll tell you what, I love football. We're going to facilitate that. Joe and I are not spending any money or putting one advertising dollar in their pockets.
Stop watching it.
Stop watching it.
That's how you move the dial. I'm telling you, people. Once we get that through our heads, that's how we change the culture.
Right.
That's what you can do, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not watching it. That's it. I'm not watching the NBA either.
Right. I get it. I'm sorry. You put the name of a Marxist organization on the court and you're going to try to convince me
they're the ones
somehow
funding it.
You're funding it. You put Black Lives Matter on the court as though if I don't agree with it, I'm a racist. Yet Joe actually knows what Black Lives Matter stands for. And believe me, it's not equality for black people. Because if it was, we'd be all in favor of it. But or let's say black people who may feel like there are certain reforms needed amongst police. I can listen to those.
Tim Scott was one of them.
Right.
And he put forth the police bill, and they vetoed it.
Right.
That bill was actually fair and balanced and had a lot of Democratic talking points in it.
And they didn't want it.
They vetoed it.
But they want you to bend your knee to this organization, right? Which should be in Trump's second term. When, catch that word out there, everybody? When Trump wins, okay, he needs to go after Antifa and Black Lives Matter under the RICO laws because it is a criminal
Oh,
conspiracy.
absolutely.
Black Lives Matter is a criminal conspiracy. Antifa is a criminal conspiracy. You go after them just like you went after La Cosa Nostra and Wall Street guys and others. You are conspiring to commit a crime,
Well,
and you
they're
can be
trying to
prosecuted
take the
under
nation
RICO.
down, Joe.
Right,
They're
so
trying to take the nation down.
What higher crime is there than
That's
that?
what I'm saying. You see, you know what it is, guys, and this is the truth. It's one thing to resist a political party. Like if the Democrats win, I'm going to resist them through the law. This is no longer resistance.
Out the window.
It's treason.
That's right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Guy walked up, or we're assuming it's a guy. I said to Joe, I looked at the video, and when the person was running away, I thought potentially
He's talking about L.A.
L.A. It could have been a woman, all right? But a person walks up to two sheriff's deputies sitting in a car, unloads a gun, and then runs away. The thugs blocked the
entrance
to the emergency room and saying, "F the police, let them die." That's what, now, if you're preventing EMTs and medical practitioners to care for people, is that not a crime?
And one of the cops is 31 years old and has a 6-year-old child.
Right.
I mean, this is, guys, it's off the hook. It's no longer resistance.
No.
It's not resistance. It's treason.
Right.
I'm sorry. You've gone too far.
Yep.
And here's another thing. I want to hear every Democrat in unison condemn that action.
You won't.
I know
you
that.
won't.
I know that. And that's
a
why I bring it up.
That's
why I bring it up.
Right.
You see, I want it like a unified voice. Every single Democrat should condemn that action, which just took place in LA yesterday.
Right.
Every single one of them should be out there saying that that is wrong and I have nothing to do with it. Do you know I checked at 6:30 today on CNN? There was not one word mentioned. If you look on our Facebook page, I posted the 4 top stories. One of them was a man convinced a Harvard scholar about the gospel of Jesus's wife. That was one of the top 4 stories at 6:35 today.
On CNN.
On CNN.
Jesus's wife.
When 2 police officers sitting in their car were gunned down in cold blood. This is why the mainstream media is the enemy of the American people. They are the propaganda arm of the DNC. And that is why I am voting for Donald Trump. One of the many reasons why I'm voting for Donald Trump. Drain the swamp.
That's it.
Drain the swamp.
Kick their asses out. Okay, and we're going to get into a couple reasons tonight at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We're going across about 15 different platforms right now. We got about 53 watching live right now and a bunch of people in our chat room, all our good friends. So we're going to get into a few things about reasons, not just our reasons, other people's reasons. You know what? Other people, not just a couple of jamokes like us. Other people, liberals, Joe, liberals in the suburbs are finding reasons to vote for Trump, or at least have the Democrats a little scared. We're going to talk about that because guess what? Trump's message to people in the suburbs starting to resonate. It's actually working. And guess what? The DNC knows it. Hence the title of our video. And also, Joe and I, you all know us now for about a year and a half. Most of you do, okay? On our social media show that we do, 8 o'clock live, is judges, okay? And that this election will either cement Trump's legacy for his judges or it will erase it. And we're going to break down some numbers for you. Numbers you might not have heard. We always talk about judges, Joe, a little bit more, not in the abstract, but we don't break down the numbers. We're going to break down some numbers for you, not just with the Supreme Court. That's easy. There's 9 of them, unless Kamala Harris gets her way.
Kamala.
Kamala. All right, I'm sorry, I'm racist, I guess, all right, because Kamala, whatever, unless she has her way to pack the court. But then there's the circuit courts. There's also the circuit courts, which Trump has been his biggest accomplishment. Most people agree that his judges have been his biggest accomplishment. But we want to break down some numbers for you. This idea of critical race theory has to go. It must go. We're going to tell you what it is, and we're going to tell you where it is, and we're going to tell you why the Orange Man is talking about it, because he understands just how dangerous it is.
Orange Man the Bad.
Orange Man the Bad. Here's another thing, all you Chamber of Commerce conservative Republicans, okay? And all you Democrats who are always worried about workers. Wages, real wages are going up, and they're going up significantly. They're not just going up a little bit. And there's a reason for that. You know what that reason is? Donald Trump!
Sir Orange Man the Bear.
Orange Man! For everybody who wants to call him an idiot and a buffoon, well, that idiot and that buffoon has paid union labor his whole life to build all the buildings he's built, and he cares about the working class. And that's why we're voting for him, amongst other reasons, because he actually cares about the working class. He doesn't pay lip service to it like Joe Biden. And then finally, as though this is going to be a shock to anybody, because anything that New York does, just expect this lapdog state that we live in, New Jersey, to do. Cuomo said last year when everybody was applauding his abortion legislation, and it's so wonderful, and people who are not doctors can perform abortions. Well, guess what? Now in New Jersey, because of Governor Murphy, disgraziat, okay, non-doctors can perform abortions. We're going to get into that too. So thank you for joining us. Please share this video with your friends. Please share all of our videos with your friends. Encourage your friends to like us and follow us on Facebook. Please, if you would, not now, after the show, go over to YouTube, go on our YouTube page, and please subscribe there also. Take about 2 seconds. You'll find us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Just subscribe, hit that little bell. That would help us tremendously. And Joe Resinello, let's get it started.
Well, as Joe said, Trump's message is starting to work in the suburbs, and we're going to tell you why. Democratic Party insiders admit that President Trump's message to Americans' middle class in the suburbs is working. A new report reveals as Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden has vowed, please pay attention to this, has vowed an end to local community control of zoning laws. Democrats, in interviews with Politico, acknowledge that there is an opening for Trump in America's suburbs where Biden may be more vulnerable than the polls have shown. Pay attention to this. You may not have known this.
This is really, really important.
Biden has pledged to abolish suburban communities as they currently exist through the massive expansion of Section 8 vouchers, requiring local officials to abolish strict zoning laws to be eligible for federal grants, and packing neighborhoods with multifamily mixed-income housing developments. Now, what does that mean? So, a suburb, like most suburbs, have zoning laws. What's zoning laws? It's a single-family dwelling. You can't have, and this could, vary in different towns. You could have maybe, you could zone for a two-family. You could zone only for a single-family. He wants to take that away, and how he's going to enforce it is saying we will suspend federal aid to your community if you do not permit this. So what does that do in essence? It brings the city into the suburbs.
That's it.
The reason why people don't live in the city, many times, one, because they can't afford it, at least by us, New York City's off the hook, expensive, but they want, sort of like specific single family dwellings, which people save and work very hard to have and put a down payment on and to pay mortgage and to pay taxes. And because they work very hard and they sacrifice for that, they take care of it, you see. See, when you work hard for something, you take care of it. I'll give you a perfect example. When I went to undergraduate school in college, my parents paid for it. They worked very hard. I got very mediocre grades. I graduated in 4 years with a 2.85 in political science. I basically partied a lot. Sadly.
I think that's why we get along so well, because my college career, even though mine wasn't 4 years, I was on the 6-year plan. But same thing. It's, just a lot of partying.
But sad. Okay. But then I went 10 years later, I went to graduate school and I got an MBA. And I paid for it, and I worked during the day and went to school at night. I got 51 credits in 2 years, and I got a 3.85. And I paid for every cent of it myself. The difference is this. When you pay for it, you take it serious. I actually read the books. When I didn't pay for it, I didn't read the books. I spent my book money on beer. The point is, when people move into, many times, Section 8 housing, they don't take care of it. Sadly.
Well, Jack Kemp made this point, God rest his soul, years ago. He wanted, again, when you talk about Republicans being nothing but racist and conservatives being racist, anytime a conservative opens their mouth, if they don't do for these inner cities exactly what the Democrats want them to do. The first charge is you're a racist. So of course, Jack Kemp was a racist. You know that, right? One of the better people in my lifetime to go across the political stage in this country, but he's called a racist. Jack Kemp used to say, "Why are we not tearing down these projects? Why are we not building the low level, okay, the low level housing, okay, and do that and offer an ownership possibility, okay, with a mortgage at a very low or no interest rate." And his premise, which is correct, it speaks to what Joe was just saying. When you own something, it immediately is improved because you own it. It has an owner, and the owner doesn't want it to go to crap. Okay, like you mentioned about the suburbs, people work hard. Okay, I might have my problems with the suburbs, but I respect the people that live there. They don't want to live in the city. They don't want Livingston to look like Newark. They don't want West Orange to look like Newark. These are suburbs in Essex County for all you people that don't know, especially all you good people up in Canada on Arana Nation. Okay, they don't want that. Same thing. If you're in Newark, and rather than living in one of those decrepit project buildings, right, the high rises, if you have your own little unit, and let's say it costs $50,000, and you could finance that, do a 30-year finance at very low interest, and you pay for it yourself, and you own it, it automatically improves. Why? Because it's now owned. All right. Well, that's exactly the type of thing that you're talking about. The people in the suburbs who have worked all their life to live in the suburbs because they want laws that protect them and, yes, their property values. We're going to get into a couple of quotes in a second, okay? They say, we don't want this. We've worked hard for this, and you're going to try to destroy it by bringing in people, not because of race. You're bringing in people who have no stake in this community. You see, the people that live in these places, they have a stake in the community, okay? That's where they've lived. That's where a lot of our paisans live in the suburbs, right, in Essex County. They moved out of Newark. They got out of there. They worked hard, and they don't want their neighborhoods messed with. But nowadays, that's considered racist. That's considered racist. It's disgusting. You mind if I?
Yeah, please.
So here's a couple things. All right. Now this is where Biden, okay, Sleepy Joe might be vulnerable because now he stepped in it. We know that they have a willing media, so anything Joe Biden says, he can flip-flop tomorrow because the media is not going to cover it, but we're going to cover it. Many people on social media are going to cover it, and a couple of people on Fox News are going to cover it. He's not going to be able to get around this, okay? He'll make Cory Booker his Secretary of Housing and Urban Development with a stated goal of destroying the suburbs. Now, here are a couple quotes that make Biden vulnerable on this front. Quote, there is that little sort of unsettling feeling in people because we can tell that Trump's messaging is grabbing hold and it's working. This is Holly Lyon, chair of the local Democrat Party. This is in Tucson, okay? You see, a frank admission, this guy's onto something and we better be careful about how we go about this, okay? And let me give you one more before we go further. Two Democrat strategists who recently viewed focus groups of suburban voters described high propensity voters increasingly concerned about unrest in urban centers. What is that saying? I don't want that in my neighborhood.
You know, it's funny because I've had conversations with people that I work with, some of which make a lot of money. No one's a racist in corporate America, but they don't want to live near poor people.
Right.
Believe it. Everyone complains about Donald Trump building a wall, but do you realize that these towns throughout the state of New Jersey and the United States at large, the tax base is the wall. You cannot live there because the tax base is high. So what this means, and this is why this is a loser, in very wealthy communities, when you start building these apartment complexes and multi-dwelling homes, that means that the school system, because people buy into these communities because they have good school systems, are going to get overrun and flooded. And that means that their little Johnny are going to have to sit next to somebody that maybe doesn't work at the same type of caliber job as daddy and mommy living in that town. And they're not going to have it. You want to shut a liberal up? I'm going to tell you how to do it. one of the many things you could shut them up on. When they talk about public education, and they're always like, well, this, we want to invest in our schools. This is what I've said. Okay, you're interested in public education? How about we pool all the tax dollars together and make one uniform public education system for the people in Newark and the people in Hohokus, New Jersey, the people in Ridgewood and the people in Camden, the people in Glen Ridge and the people in Summit. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, whoa. Does that mean that my son has to go to school next to a kid who is from Camden? Or my son's calculus teacher is not going to have the credential because we can't pay them? Because they're not interested in equality.
No.
That is the biggest facade. And you also want to shut people up. I've seen this a few times as well. Anytime a fancy town comes up with some type of zoning rule, they want to build an apartment building, they want to build condos, the rich town will always come up with excuses. Oh, we can't do this. The sewage line here doesn't work.
Right.
Oh, we can't afford, because they don't want equality. You see, they want equality at an arm's length, and they will call you a racist.
Exactly.
But when it comes to them living next door to somebody who's not a banker or a lawyer or a doctor or a CPA or an engineer, they're not having it.
Let me tell you a quick story my brother was telling me, all right? I don't remember what year it was. It was a few years ago. Livingston, for all those people out there who don't know, Livingston, New Jersey is a liberal Essex County suburb, okay? It's a liberal town, all right? There's a lot of Jews. There's a lot of Italians. Nonetheless, it is a liberal town. A few years ago, they made this proposal in Livingston. They wanted to build housing. They wanted to do it in Livingston, New Jersey. Everybody heard what I said? It's a liberal town. You know what the response was? Absolutely not.
Of course.
No, it wasn't, we might the sewer. Remember the sewer thing you talked about? The sewer. No, it was absolutely not. Every one of these people, many of these people would call guys like us racist. I've heard them call conservatives racist, conservative politicians racist, not just Donald Trump. Okay, but when it came to their property values, absolutely not.
That's my point. I laugh.
You're going to put Section 8 housing over there? Never going to have. You know what? They eventually did build multi-family dwellings in Livingston. You know what they go for? $1 million. So guess what? And there's no set-asides for Section 8 housing. So here's the bottom line. That's a liberal town. And that's one of the examples of what we're talking about. Is that's why Trump's messaging in those places is working. Now, do I want those people's property values to go down? Or let's put it like this. Do we like their hypocrisy? No. Do I want their property values to go down? Do I think it's fair that just arbitrarily by an act of the government, they want the suburbs to look like the cities? No, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair at all. I don't think that those people are supposed to sacrifice at the altar of political correctness and do whatever the liberals want them to do. I don't think it's right. Okay, not all of America is going to want to look like Mayor de Blasio's New York. And I work in New York. Joe hasn't been back yet. I have. Okay, and bottom line is New York's a ghost town, and many people are saying it ain't coming back. It ain't, and that's what a lot of people like Biden. That's why this message is deadly for them. All right, in terms of the election, that's why this is not going to go over well with those many white, educated, liberal, particularly mothers, particularly women, and mothers. So yeah, not a good one for Biden to be. This
has to get communicated, because sadly, too many people are like glossing over some harsh realities that this party stands for. They just don't want to accept it. This is real. By the way, Obama tried to do this. But Biden is actually more radical than Barack Obama. And if you don't believe me, please read the unity document, Sanders-Biden unity document, 110 pages. Read it. Read it. This is not even propaganda. This is a document, what they are for. This is radical leftist policy.
Right.
That's what this is.
Right.
Period.
Go look at what I was telling Joe before the show. Go look at what de Blasio said last week, because he's under a lot of pressure because of the restaurant industry and other things and statements he's come out with. He basically came out and said, my program doesn't work until everybody's on board with redistribution of wealth, because 600,000 people now have left New York. Okay, and fleeing to New Jersey and Connecticut and Westchester, and they're leaving. Okay, and what was he really saying? It pertains to this story. Okay, de Blasio's not talking to the people of New York. He's the mayor of New York. Who's he talking to? He's talking to Murphy, the governor of New Jersey. He's talking to Cuomo, because Cuomo's obviously the governor of New York. He's talking to the governor of Connecticut. Okay, what he's really in effect saying is, guys, we have to give these people no place to go. That means if I'm going to redistribute their wealth, you have to redistribute their wealth. If I'm going to tax them at 50%, you have to tax them at 50%. Because why? For this reason. How dare you? How dare you, you racist pig, live in the suburbs? How dare you think that you're going to have an easier life? How dare you think that you don't want to live in the cities? In other words, like the rest of the people. That's their attitude. That's right, and you're expected to, in order to prove you're not a horrible person.
Does that apply to him?
De Blasio? No,
that's my point, and that's the laugh, people. Does it apply to Barack Obama living in his $40 million Martha's Vineyard home that he bought from the co-owner of the Boston Celtics?
I want Section 8 housing in Martha's Vineyard.
Next to your house.
Next to Obama and every other freaking liberal that lives there. You impose this on us, Mr. Biden, we are going to protest. We're going to start a 1,000 Catholic man march. We're going to go to Martha's Vineyard, and we're going to knock on City Hall, and we're going to go there and say, you put Section 8 housing in all over the place. You're not going to put it here? No. We're going to demand, and we'll file a lawsuit. We'll say you need to build Section 8 housing. If you built it in suburban Essex County, you have to build it in Martha's Vineyard. Isn't that what it comes down to? And I'm serious.
No, but it's just, again, guys, you got to just listen to some of this. You see, all these things, this is what socialism is. It applies to you, but it does not apply to them. You think Rahm Emanuel in Chicago's daughter goes to school with people who go into Section 8 housing? Doesn't apply to him.
Nope, it doesn't.
I mean, guys, this is where I'll be honest with you. Any person in the middle class that is for socialism, you should have your head examined. You should have your head examined. The only people who I can excuse are people that are super, super poor and who are super, super rich, because they're not affected because they don't care. They're above the fray. They should know better, but they are not affected. And if you're super, super, super poor, and you have no possible way of getting out of it, you see, then maybe. But at the end of the day, socialism does not give you a fighting chance to climb. Socialism is an economic system that's, when you try to navigate through it, it's like trying to walk in honey or mud. You don't climb out of it.
Right.
You're stuck.
Yep.
Average people are stuck in socialism. You're stuck there. If your father's a milkman, you're a milkman. If your father's a mailman, you're a mailman. You don't go to college if you're average. Only people who are economically blessed or who are analytically brilliant who get to go on and move forward. I want a fighting chance. That's why I believe in the American dream. Mm-hmm. That means I could work hard and I could progress. That's what America is about. And they are basically telling you, and they're masking it. You see, that's the sin. They're using Joe Biden, and they're basically putting him out there as this central guy. Meanwhile, everything under it is this leftist policy after policy after policy. And if you don't believe me, please read their document.
Right.
You see, don't listen to Joe Biden getting thrown softball questions by CNN. They haven't challenged the guy once when he's come out of his basement, the few times he's come out of his basement. It's an embarrassment. These are the two weakest candidates in my 50 years of life in this country, by the way. I thought Hillary was a bad candidate because she was so tarnished. She was very qualified. However, she was just tarnished. Joe Biden, frankly, I don't even think he's that competent. And frankly, Kamala Harris didn't even do well in the primary.
Listen, I said before,
Oh
forget
my gosh,
about
it's an
Biden.
embarrassment.
I originally said that, and we said on this show, on the front line with Joe and Joe, please like, subscribe, share, and all that fun stuff on YouTube and Facebook, and let your friends know about our show, of course, if you like us. I said originally, we've been saying on this show that Biden's not going to be president. I think the better way to put it, particularly for older folks out there who might, or movie lovers who know the movie Manchurian Candidate, then I called Biden the Manchurian Candidate. I think what's more appropriate is to call this the Manchurian ticket, okay? Because once Biden, if he's elected, is declared incapacitated, which will come probably by next summer, within 6 months of his administration, he'll be declared incapacitated, or he'll be told, okay, Joe, go give your speech where he'll say, I'm not fit to be president. I'm going to hand it over to Kamala. And do you think she's going to make decisions? She's going to make no decision. She's going to open her mouth, and Obama and Perez and some of the others are going to say, Kamala, that's Mrs. President. Kamala, listen, go in the corner and shut your mouth. We'll tell you, we're figuring it out over here. We'll tell you what to do, and we'll tell you what to say. And you'll like it, okay? You're not president. We made you president, but you're not really president. We are, okay? We run things around here. That's exactly what's going to happen.
I agree.
It's
100%.
the Manchurian ticket, not just the Manchurian candidate. Kamala Harris is going to be trusted to run nothing. It will be all Obama, Perez, and the people, Ezekiel Emanuel. Trust me, he's an evil, evil man, Ezekiel Emanuel. He'll run healthcare in this country, and he'll make the decision. No decision. There's many, many, many reasons to vote for Donald Trump. I don't care what anybody says, okay? There is no comparison. And you can leave aside, let's say, abortion and the rest of it, which we talk about on the show all the time. This is a perfect example. What you worked hard for your entire life, that single-family home, okay, in a community that you chose to live, okay, the property value of your home will be cut in half because of Joe Biden. Remember that. So where are we headed next, Joe?
We're going to talk about the courts, because this is something Joe and I have been beating upon the drum since the beginning of our show 2 years ago. The reason to vote for Donald Trump, first and foremost, it's about the courts, because it's going to control the direction of the United States of America for 2 decades after he's gone. And that's why they're fighting like hell to get him basically thrown out of the seat. We're going to break that down for you. From the Supreme Court to the to the appellate courts, and I want to just throw numbers at you and give you basically a big picture of what's at stake. Data compiled by the Article 3 project shows that the next president will likely solidify a lasting majority on the Court of Appeals, either cementing Donald Trump's judicial legacy or largely undoing it. Let's first go to the Supreme Court. On the Supreme Court, 4 justices could conceivably be replaced before 2024. Breyer, Ginsburg, Thomas, and Alito. This means President Trump could potentially shift the Supreme Court to 7-2.
And given Roberts, we need it to be 7-2, because it's more like 6.5, 3.5 when it comes to Roberts. But I'm sorry, Joe.
And President Biden could achieve a 6-3 Democrat-appointed majority. 6 Democrat-appointed justices could result in a Supreme Court opinion that radically undermined the Constitution. That's if Biden wins the presidency. Worse, Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris, has even threatened to pack the Supreme Court, expanding it to 11 or more seats, appointing new liberal activist judges. This is a dangerous proposition.
And by the way, real quick, let's be clear. A little history here. That has not been done for 150 years, since just after the Civil War, as far as messing with the number of Supreme Court justices. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it's a radical idea. So before the left starts saying, well, you guys just don't want more liberals, Ruth Bader, number one, I don't, okay? But Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it's too radical an idea. 9 is fine. Because by the way, just for a second, while we're on this subject, just so everybody knows, while you add more and more Supreme Court justices, because theoretically you can, Okay, you could put as many justices on the Supreme Court as you want. Then they're not independent. Not that they're completely independent now, and we have a lot of problems with the Supreme Court. But then they become another democratic institution, and the court is not supposed to be a democratic institution. They're not supposed to have to cave to political pressure. That's why they're not elected. But if you do that and you basically make it, 50 people on the Supreme Court, well, now it just becomes another democratic institution, and that's not what it's designed to be. We already have two dysfunctional bodies that do that, and that's called the House and the Senate. So let's be clear about that.
So let's break down the appellate.
Yeah, got it. This is where, and Joe's going to get into some numbers. Let's be clear. We talk about judges. We talk about Trump coming in with a record amount of judges that he could nominate right off the bat, because Obama was lax because he thought and assumed that Hillary was going to be coronated Queen of the United States. Okay, so shame on Barack Obama and more power to us. Trump comes in with 140 and now has gotten near 300 judges. Most of them are shaping the appellate court. And Joe's going to get into that.
Before Trump's presidency, Republican-appointed judges were a majority on 4 of the 13 appellate courts. That's the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, together covering Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and most of the Midwest and the Great Plains states. Judges appointed by Trump have flipped the balance of 3 more circuits, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 11th, together covering New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and much of the South. New data compiled shows that if Trump wins and the Senate majority is maintained, they could flip each of the remaining 6 circuits, the 1st, the 4th, the 9th, and the 10th, to conservative majorities. You see, this is huge,
right,
people. This is the issue. This is the issue. And this is why they're fighting like hell. One of the reasons why they're fighting like hell. The second reason, if you ask me, is self-preservation, because they're afraid of Bill Barr, who is the head of the Department of Justice, who's coming after them. And he has 4 more years to do it. But this is the primary issue, if you ask me.
I would address one thing that's going on in the comment box. Blood Covenant says LGBTQ, Trump supported it throughout his campaign. I know there's a number of other comments, but I want to address that one. We are not going to get everything we want. Nobody is looking at Donald Trump as a savior. Okay, he is not Jesus Christ, nor do we believe him to be. Okay, Christ obviously is the only one who could save America, but Trump could serve as a good transition to a Josh Hawley or someone like that, who's going to get even more judges. And then we, not the president, we can fight against the LGBT agenda, especially when it comes to children, okay? Especially when it comes to family and marriage, okay? We could fight that fight. I'm voting for Trump not because he's going to be the one that's going to do anything about that, but he's also not going to do anything to promote it. And I think that's where you're wrong, Blood Covenant. Donald Trump, if anything, his sin is he's been indifferent to, let's say, for argument's sake, gay marriage and the rest of it. And as far as somebody else commenting about the judges, okay, that while Gorsuch and Roberts basically voted in the Clayton versus Bostock decision?
Bostock.
Okay, we're not going to get everything we want. But here's the difference. You have a choice between not getting everything you want, but getting most of what you want.
And nothing.
All right. And no. How about less than nothing? There is a less than nothing scenario here. It's you get what you can from Trump. You either get nothing or you go the opposite, where everything that happens goes against you. And that's what we don't want. And if Trump serves that function, okay, in the next 4 years, to stand as a wall between us and the godless, well, then let him be Constantine in that way, where Constantine was not baptized till he was on his deathbed. He killed members of his own family. If you want to talk about people's sins, Catholic Church reveres Constantine because he recognized the Catholic Church in 315 with the Edict of Milan. Let Trump be that person, and then let God deal with Donald Trump and his sins. Okay? But in the meantime, he is a much better friend to us, okay, than these people. In fact, these people are no friends to us. They are our enemies because they have made us their enemies. So I'm not willing to overlook the LGBT issues. But we have to right now take what we could get, while at the same time we have a bridge to somebody who might be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to some of these other things that we care very strongly about, like marriage and family. But right now, it is vitally important. And one other thing, not to be long-winded, the one institution in this country that is supposed to stand between us and the rage mob on all levels, whether it's the feminists with abortion, whether it's the LGBT crowd wanting to indoctrinate kids. The one main institution in this country is the judiciary, and Donald Trump is our friend on that front. Nobody outside of Jesus Christ, nobody's going to convince me different. And I will proudly vote for him. Proudly.
And also, just to make another point on this court situation, do you imagine, because Joe Biden is controlled by the radical left, who he will nominate? You see, think about that for a moment. Not only left, radical.
Yeah.
Radical. Think about that. Think about what's being proposed by some of these people currently in our country that run things, that are powerful. Now, put that power in the hand of the court. It's a scary thought. It scares me.
That's right. It scares us both. And again, we're not arguing with you, Blood Covenant. We're just very simply, we're giving you our position, and that's where we come from here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello. We're way into the breach, live right now. We're going across social media in along 10 or 15 different platforms, and so now we're going to go to another issue, okay, which is, and this is part and parcel of the culture war. Is the critical race theory?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this.
This is one of those. I mean, nearly every idea that the Democrats have is dangerous. This one's really bad. Critical race theory. This is really bad, and Joe and I are going to get into it.
The Trump administration announced that it would make efforts to ensure critical race theory is not used in diversity programs in the federal government. This came after reports emerged of training sessions in which white governmental employees are basically told that they are inherent racists and made to confess and apologize for their privilege. Such sessions have also become popular in the corporate world and in our schools. They are operated by very successful companies trading on white guilt. A big reason for the success of the critical race theory over the past few decades has been an unwillingness of Americans, especially non-Black Americans, to confront it. And the reason why they can't confront it is, frankly, they will lose their job. This is, it is now, I'll be honest with you, if you are a white male, you are the persecuted class in corporate America.
And it's because of
there is no question about that. There is no question about that.
Can you imagine walking into work one day and you got to sit down? I mean, we already do it to a degree. When you take those sexual harassment videos when you go into work, and you have to get into sexual harassment. I get it. Don't do untoward things towards women. Don't touch them. Don't say suggestive things. I get it. I don't disagree with it. All right. But then you got to listen to the LGBT indoctrination in the same thing. This is the same thing. You want all the white people, or I hate using that phrase. You want to know why? Because Joe and I have said before, I'm not a white man. Okay. I am a Roman Catholic American of Italian descent. All right. And I have white skin, but they want me and Joe to sit there, Joe in the bank and me in the restaurant I work in. And they want us to sit there and they want us to acknowledge just how racist we are, just how privileged we are. And I have to sit there, and if I don't say that, that means I'm not repentant of my sins. And I say, well, what sin did I commit? Well, you're white. Don't you get it? You're white.
Oprah's on some kick right now. She's lecturing people about white privilege.
Right. So,
she's worth $3 billion.
And when is somebody going to turn around to Oprah and say, Oprah, shut up?
How about you distribute some of that wealth, Oprah? Or how about we build a Section 8 housing unit next to your apartment building in Chicago? I doubt that's happening.
No, she's going to be the first one to say what we said earlier, like the people in Livingston, New Jersey. Absolutely not. And this critical race theory, I mean, so basically Trump is right for wanting to do away with this. It's a cancer. He called it a cancer. Who wrote this article? David Marcus, one of our favorite. All right. He called it a cancer because that's what it is. It has the potential not even the potential, it actually is right now, but let's use his words. It has the potential to tear this nation apart. Oh, he says it, if it hasn't already. There is no more time to be silent in the face of this racist ideology, because that's what it is. I mean, I say all the time, I got to go sit there in front of these people, and they're going to try to convince me that because I have white skin, somehow that's a sin. I'd like to tell them right to their face, listen, pal, I have enough sins that I'm going to have to be accountable for when I meet Jesus Christ. But I am not paying for the sins of other people. And I'm not paying for sins that I did not commit. And having white skin as a natural feature of my body is not a sin. And I'm not going to be told that it is. And I'm not going to be told that I somehow...
I don't do anything to other people of color.
Oh, but they'll say that you do.
But not only that, my family wasn't even here when slavery went on in this country. You see, this is just craziness. People, for crying out loud. Of course there are racists in America. But to say the whole system is racist, I'm sorry. There's people a lot smarter than me who are black who are saying otherwise. It's frankly just not fair to say that.
Right.
To say that there are racists is accurate.
Sure it is.
There are racists everywhere. But to say the whole system is racist, I'm sorry, I can't buy it. I'm sorry. And sadly, this particular dilemma that Trump is addressing in the federal government is going on across all of the private sector. And they're shoving it down everybody's throat. And frankly, you will comply or you will be out the door. And that's no lie.
Right. Right. That's it. And that's exactly right. That we have to open our mouths when it comes to all these different things that they try to push. Tonight it's critical race theory.
But what I would say is you have to take them to court. See, that's what you have to do. It, just like what Linwood did representing Nick Salmon. You see, what you have to do is this. If someone calls you something, particularly something strong, like you're a racist, and you're clearly not, you better damn well prove what you're saying is accurate. Because if you don't, you sue them.
Right.
You sue the company for wrongful termination. You see, we're going to get back to what we said with the NFL. This is how you move the dial. You take their money.
Right.
You don't give them money. You boycott products. You boycott specific companies. And when they do, and that's why you need good judges. That's why I'm saying this is the issue. Because you need judges that are going to defend the Constitution, whereby if you do go to court, they have your back. Because all they're doing is looking at the document. You let the document speak for itself. You slide it across the table. You say, read the document. I am protected, as you should be protected. And that is why you vote for Donald Trump, because we want constitutionalists. I'm not interested in conservative judges.
No.
I want constitutionalists. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's why I'm voting for him. Number one reason.
That's the number one reason. And the other thing, too, is, this critical race theory, obviously, like all bad ideas in America, usually are born in the American university system, okay? Don't ever forget, all these attacks on your right to free speech, your right to practice your religion, your right to freely assemble, all of these rights, the left does not value, of course. They would like nothing more than to have the Constitution ripped up and thrown in the dustbin of history. They get together, all these eggheads in the Ivy League, these law school professors, and this is true. Every conservative intellectual in this country knows that this is exactly what happens. They get together with all their advanced law school students. They go in the back room and they say, let's make some arguments about how we can attack. How are we going to stop people or attack people who go to a Catholic church? And somebody says, but we have a First Amendment which guarantees the right to free expression of religion. And the professor says, right, we need to come up with a legal theory as to how we could chip away at that right. Now that goes for freedom of speech. Now they call it hate speech, right? And there's a whole host of things. Critical race theory is born in the same pit of hell, okay, which is a back room at Harvard University, probably in the critical legal studies department, okay? And then they turn around and they float it out there and they see how it's going to be received. And in corporate America, this stuff is being received in spades. Banks already adopted the LGBT agenda. Now it's just rainbow flags all over the place, okay? They give to Planned Parenthood. So you know they do that. So critical race theory is going to be the next one, where your boss turns around and says, Joe, are you a racist? And you're going to say, why on earth would you say that to me? Well, because of critical race theory, because of the color of your skin, you do realize you're privileged. And it goes on and on and on and on until somebody finally stands up and says, absolutely not. And at the very least, Donald Trump in the federal government is saying, absolutely not. Critical race theory has no place in the federal government. And guess what? In the agencies, that's Donald Trump's. That's under his authority. That's under the executive branch. So he's got the power to say, absolutely not. And I'm glad he's doing that. I'm glad he's doing that.
Well, let's talk wages, Joe, because I think this is a very important conversation. A lot of people should focus on it because most of us are just in the middle and we're not privileged. We work for a living. And this is something you should be very much aware of because who becomes the president could very much determine if you even have a job. Let's talk about it. Before the coronavirus hit, President Trump's policies combined, they curbed immigration, and they also worked on economic growth. This boosted blue-collar American wages. The widespread demand for higher wages will have a long-term impact. One economist, told Bloomberg. That's the news agency, not Michael Bloomberg. Ultimately, it's going to be a permanent change that these lower-end workers are going to get more money. That's what an economist said at SunTrust Bank, which is also located in the South in Atlanta. People won't relocate or travel great distances for low-paying jobs, so wages will have to rise. Now, here's the rub. Unless, of course, Joe Biden is elected, and he floods the labor market by implementing his campaign promises to roll back border enforcement of illegal, let me stress that word, illegal immigration, and he also raises the inflow of visa workers, which also takes priority over Americans who are in the labor force.
Right.
By the way, do you ever think why they allow illegal immigration? Do you think they actually care about these people coming across the border? They want them to vote.
Right. Well, let's be clear. The left wants the illegal immigrants to vote for the left. They want them to go on the government dole and take those cheap crap jobs that Americans rightfully don't want to do for those cheap crap wages. Okay. And the Chamber of Commerce conservative Republicans, they want the immigration because they want cheap labor. So one wants power and the other wants money. Either way, Donald Trump goes right in the middle of it and says, like you said, we've been saying on the show all the time. The two main things you could do to drive wages up in this country, the first one is to secure that border, all right, and do the things like with the visas that Trump has been doing, all right, and that's going to make businesses have to compete for labor and get women who don't want to be in the workforce out of the workforce by promoting families in America. You want to see wages go up? Do those two things, amongst other things. Do those two things, okay? Particularly with women, because many women don't. Many women do. I'm just saying, okay? Many women want to be in the workforce. Many women don't, and the reason they are is because their husbands are getting crap wages. Whereas if they were getting the real wages to do the jobs that they should, that they're doing, okay, then the woman can stay home with the kids, okay? And there's many women in America that want to do that. So those two things will make businesses have to compete for labor. And when businesses have to compete for labor, wages go up. Oh, you want to pay me $18 an hour, but that guy's willing to pay me $22 an hour. And guess what? That's how wages go up. So again, supply and demand. If it applies for the capitalist, then it applies for labor too.
But also, not for nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, we do have to take care of Americans first. I am all for immigration, legal immigration. And by the way, look it up. America lets in more people than just about any country in the world, legally, every year. I'm talking about illegal immigration. And could we do better in streamlining the process? Absolutely. Well, let's work on it. Let's work on it in a bipartisan manner. It's been tried by every single president for quite some time. No one wants to do it for those two reasons that Joe just mentioned. One wants the votes, the other wants cheap labor.
Right.
They can't agree. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Right.
But also, what does Joe Biden also promise to do? He's promised to raise corporate taxes. And what he always says is, I'm for the little guy. Well, guess what, Joe? When you raise corporate taxes, guess who employs the little guy? The corporations. And guess what they do to maintain their profits. They cut staff.
Mm-hmm.
That is a reality. That is what Joe Biden has already promised to do. One of the reasons why Barack Obama's economy stunk is because he had 33% taxation on corporations. Donald Trump cut it into the low 20s, and immediately people became employed.
Right.
Immediately, many of them were Latinos and blacks.
That's right.
So that is another lie that people have to get out of their head, that by taxing the company, you're for the little man. No, you're not. When you tax the company, they fire the little man. Also, regulation. Joe Biden will impose useless and too many regulations on companies, which also affects the bottom line, which also affects the labor force. One of the reasons why the economy is so strong under Donald Trump, he cut regulation. By the way, just so you know, I'm a regulator in the banking system. You need regulation, but there's a difference between proper regulation and useless regulation. And that's a balance you have to draw, not by basically waging a class war.
Right.
And that is exactly what the left is doing. In doing that, everyone loses, particularly the little guy.
Right.
Because the big guy, it doesn't matter who the president is. They're above the fray.
Right.
The little guy loses. And I will tell you this, mark my words, if Joe Biden wins the presidency, unemployment will go up.
Of course it will. Of course it will.
Because companies will be affected because they'll have to pay more money every year to the government. And when they do that, they will cut the staff.
And when they cut the staff, remember something too.
It's like talking to the wall.
You got one worker doing the work of 1.5 or 2 workers. They say, well, we got to watch our labor. We can't make any money. I'm so tired of that argument. Again, all the people out there that can't stand Donald Trump. Donald Trump has paid union wages his whole life. Those are not $18 an hour jobs. Those are union jobs. Construction in New York City. Blue collar. Okay. Donald Trump gets it. So I'm getting tired of hearing like about this. You know, he's a real estate mogul from New York. Yes, who put a lot of money in a lot of construction workers' pockets. That's what he's done. And you know, and these Republicans make me want to throw up too. The Anthony Scaramucci's of the world. I mean, he's a hedge fund manager.
Oh, please.
Does private equity or whatever the case might be.
$150 million.
Right. Labor, the cost of labor goes down, wages go down. Scaramucci makes money. People like him make money. Why do you think he hates Donald Trump? Why do you think he's giving up?
He hates Donald Trump because his pride was hurt.
That's true.
Because he's an egomaniac. And same thing with Romney. He's another egomaniac. Same thing with Bloomberg.
Well, because a guy like Romney thinks he's so much smarter than Donald Trump. But Romney's only worth $250 million. Only. Okay? And Trump's worth much, much, much more than that. There are a lot of our friends and then new faces in the chat room tonight. Some of the people in the chat room, Joe, they don't like us too much. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But Anna's here. Rita's here. You got Rosemarie. Want to throw a special shout out to another podcaster out there, Jeremiah Bannister's following us, Paleocrat Diaries. That is a program that I'm going to start watching, and I want to see what that's all about because he is also carried by our friend Jonathan Ross at Holy Faith Media. So Jeremiah is with us, and yeah, Kevin's with us. A whole bunch of friends, and I'm sorry I can't get to you all, but we love you all very, very much. Even though some of you think that Joe and I are going to hell. Anyway, so let's move on. The last story of the night. Again, now this story talks about the things that we have to be vocal about, things that we have to fight on the more local level. We have an interview with Tim Gordon. We thought it was a great conversation. You can find that on both our Facebook page and our YouTube page. We were talking about subsidiarity. Subsidiarity is a Catholic word for federalism, where things are basically better off done. Problems are best solved on a local level, okay, on a community level. So we can't look to Donald Trump to solve all the problems we should be solving ourselves. And this is one of those cases where this particular issue, okay, we need to start fighting on that local level, start winning groundswell of support to build resistance against this diabolical, what would you call it? Diabolical agenda that that is rampaging us right now.
Well, we're going to end the story with something coming out of New Jersey, as Joe alluded to in the beginning of the show. New Jersey is now, you see, a lot of people probably don't know this, but New Jersey, following New York's lead, as Joe said, introducing tonight's show, they're going to allow non-doctors to perform abortions. Now, who do I mean by non-doctors? Midwives, nurse practitioners. Does that sound like a pro-woman policy to you? I mean, an abortion, if you ask me, is an operation, isn't it? I mean, the child, because that's what it is in your body, right? You're going to allow someone who didn't go to med school to go inside your body? I wouldn't do that.
I mean, I thought that's what a back alley abortion was.
It sounds
like that.
It sounds like it to me.
A certified midwife. Well, certified midwife. Well, what's an uncertified midwife? Back alley abortion. I hate to call abortionist doctor. This is back alley abortion. When they accuse conservatives of forcing people into a back alley, no, evidently you're A-okay with forcing these women into a back alley or telling them that go right ahead, you can go and do it. Go kill your baby. The person doesn't have to be a doctor. And by the way, if you die, I'm sorry, but you were exercising your constitutional rights.
Let me read you a quote from Abby Johnson. Abby Johnson spoke at the Republican National Convention that just passed, and she also was working in the abortion industry. This is what she had to say on the subject. She said, "I worked for Planned Parenthood for almost 8 years, ascending to the position of director of my clinic. I did several things only doctors should have done, but I'm not the only one. The 500 plus abortion workers I've helped to get out of the industry have horror stories of things they were made to do that they had zero qualifications for. Many were not trained or participated in limited training for doing jobs that only doctors should have been doing." Pay attention, because this is spot on. Anyone who works in a business knows this is accurate. And she was the director of a clinic for Planned Parenthood. She said this: "When money is the bottom line," and it is the bottom line in the abortion industry, "shortcuts are king." This is not a pro-woman policy. Even if you are pro-choice, you should be against this. And New Jersey has just made it legal.
Of course, because that's what Murphy is, and that's what New Jersey has been for a very long time. It's the lapdog state of New York. Whatever New York does, we do. When New York said that you can't smoke in restaurants, what did New Jersey do? They said you can't smoke in restaurants. When New York said you can't smoke in bars, say, well, you can't smoke in bars. With COVID, the whole thing, everything. So this is not a shock. This is not a shock that big bad New York is telling New Jersey what to do. It's been going on for years. The shame of it is New Jersey at one point was one of the fastest growing states in the Union in the 1970s. We were a low tax state. They went in the back room, the leaders in New Jersey and New York, and they colluded to raise our taxes. Again, going back to what we said earlier about de Blasio. Don't give them any place to go. People will leave in New York to come to New Jersey. Well, why would you do that now? Why would you do it now? Why would you have done it 20 years ago? You're paying high taxes there. You're paying high taxes here. The difference now, though, you have an insane person or a more insane person as mayor of New York City. But yeah, this goes back to the whole thing. You know what I mean? That's all they want. This is their lust. That would you call it a lust they have or a thirst that they have for the blood of innocent babies? That why would you need to do this? Even like you said, even if we don't agree with it at all, none of it. It's all death. It's all the culture of death. But even if you're a person that even if you're a person that, let's say, for argument's sake, you call yourself pro-choice, you don't think that if you care about women that they're supposed to actually see a doctor?
Makes sense to me. I mean,
again, you're penetrating. You're going into a woman's body.
It's an operation, Joe.
Right.
And you're using equipment that has to be sterilized. There's all types. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but just things that pop into my head. I mean, this is not a pro-woman policy. And they'll spin it and they'll lie to you. And the worst part about it is this, my friends. We're lying to ourselves. We're lying to ourselves and we are rationalizing things. This is what this platform stands for.
Right.
I'm not lying to you.
Right.
Look it up. It's there. The problem is you don't want to see it. Sadly, over 40% of America is going to vote for Joe Biden. Keep this in mind. Everything we just said, he is for. That's what you support if you vote for Joe Biden.
And the only wall standing in between him and our absolute destruction is Donald Trump. And I don't care what anybody in the chat room said. All right. I need to protect first of all politicians are not liars. And second of all, what would you like for us to do? Not vote? In other words, am I not supposed, as a Catholic, am I called not to vote?
Well,
real quick. I just want to give a quick shout out. One of our really good friends and also a great contributor, Sandra. She said, "You gentlemen are absolutely right." Now, Sandra is a dentist. You see, that means she has a degree. That means she worked hard, okay? And she also has a business. And this speaks to what Joe said about money, all right? So you have Sandra. Hang on one second. So Sandra said, "You gentlemen are absolutely right. More and more in all fields of medicine and even dentistry, surgical procedures, are being delegated to auxiliaries who do not have adequate training to perform these procedures safely. It is an undermining of doctors who have sacrificed much to be doctors solely for the purpose of doing more of those procedures for what, Joe? Money. It all comes down to money." And Sandra says, in this case, abortion. So that's what we're dealing with. It's a shame because you want to try to make more money, but in this case, you make more money by killing more babies. So don't get it, but that's what New Jersey's done, and that's where we stand right now. It's sick.
It's sick out there, and it's getting sicker.
Bob Grant used to say that all the time. Bob Grant used to say, "It's sick out there and getting sicker." Well, he was saying that in the 90s on WABC in New York City. And it really, it really applies. Now, it's more sick than it's ever been. But I do want to end with this real quick. We're not attacking anybody. And the person who commented is not a troll. They're a person who just happens to disagree with us. So we respect this person. But here's the point. The person said all politicians are liars. Okay. But then according to that standard, am I supposed to stay home on November 3rd? You understand my point? If they're all liars, and to vote for any of them is, let's say, I don't know if they were considering that a mortal sin. Well, then what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to stay home and just let the devil and his minions run roughshod over me and Joe and our families and our friends and our society and our country? Is that what my duty is as a Roman Catholic? I don't think so. Again, if we sat here and said, "You got to vote for Donald Trump, he's the greatest thing since Jesus Christ," I would say, yeah, I just committed a sin. Donald Trump is not a Lord and Savior. Okay, and we will say that over and over again. But what the hell are you supposed to do in the face of this madness? Who are you supposed to vote for in the face of this madness? And sorry, him being an adulterer, it's not a reason not to vote for him.
But even
it's not. That's personal sin that he's going to have to deal with, and hopefully he repents of.
Listen, I could respect you if you don't want to vote for Donald Trump, but you're going to vote for Joe Biden. I'll tell you what. Write me in. Write in the Pope. Write in your mother, but you're going to vote for Joe Biden? Like I said, you should vote, then write somebody in.
Right.
And then I could respect that, but right. You're going to vote for this? You're going to vote for a person that wants to kill babies in the third trimester?
Right.
This is disgusting.
Right. And more importantly, you're telling me that I can't, because of other extraneous reasons, vote against the culture of death. Well, because that guy's an adulterer. I don't get it. I can't see the logic of that. Because again, I'm not voting for somebody because of their personal sins or and as Tim Gordon pointed out, Donald Trump has many of the classic virtues that the Catholic Church has taught through, let's say, for argument's sake, churches teaching, through St. Thomas Aquinas about what it means to be virtues and what virtues are. Donald Trump exhibits many of them. He exhibits some that are not. But, we have to look at it. I think we could look at him. My point is, I think we could look at Donald Trump a little bit more objectively, at the very least, because I don't see Donald Trump as my enemy. But I do see Joe Biden has made us, he's made the little sisters of the poor his enemy. What do you think he thinks of you and me and Joe? He has said, I'm going after the little sisters of the poor. You know that, right?
I know. I did see that.
Okay.
It's
so he's a friend. Or again, my question, and we'll leave it out there till next time. Am I not supposed to vote against that? Am I not? I think I have a duty to.
It's a disgrace. It's such a disgrace. It's more of a disgrace that people just rationalize it away. That's the disappointing thing. It's, first of all, it's not an adult way to live. And second of all, it's not a responsible way to live as a citizen of this country. If you ask me, Joe Biden's platform is a dangerous platform.
It's an evil platform, Joe.
I'm sorry.
It's an evil platform.
I'm sorry. You do what you know, listen, nobody's perfect. But at the end of the day, there is no way I'm voting for somebody who's for third trimester abortions. I'm sorry. You're disqualified. Write in Ronald McDonald then, if you don't want to vote for Donald Trump. But you cannot vote for that, particularly if you're Catholic.
Right.
I am sorry. I am sorry.
And Rosemary just said in the chat room, Father Altman was just silenced. Yes, he was. It seems like, if you want to get the bishops to open their mouth about somebody, in other words, you say something, let's say, bad about Democrats, the bishops will open their mouth. But if you say something bad about Republicans, or if you say something negative about Donald Trump, they'll keep their mouth shut, or they'll even applaud you. They'll even applaud you, like Bishop John Stowe, and people like him, like Father James Martin. See, I listened to, by the way, it's a really good interview with Father Altman and Taylor Marshall. Okay, I thought it was a good conversation. Okay, and also Father Altman was on with the Grace Force, Doug Barry and Father Heilman. He's been all over the place lately because his video resonated, and he made a very good point. He said 0 Catholics voted for Barack Obama. 0. So swish that around a little bit and see if that's not a powerful statement. No?
Listen, at the end of the day, Christ is going to judge us all. We're all going to stand naked before God. My thing is this. Do what God tells you to do. Allow your conscience to be formed by the teaching of the church. Go to confession regularly if you're Catholic. Receive the Eucharist weekly and pray the Rosary. And I will make you a bet. If you do those 3 things which I just said, pray the Rosary daily, go to confession weekly, and go to church once a week, you will not be voting for Joe Biden.
I'm
going to tell you this because your heart will not permit it. That I stake everything I own upon.
Right. And that's the solution to it all. At the end of the day, because the goal is not a better America, even though we'd like for it to have a more moral America, the goal is to go to heaven. And that's where we want to go.
That's it.
And that's where we want all you to go. And I pray for Donald Trump's conversion every day. I know Joe does. I pray for many people's conversion every day. So that I pray for my own continued conversion every day. We're all sinners, okay? So let's get that straight. But in the meantime, it is a very, very bad thing that the Democrats are promoting. It is the culture of death. They've been doing it for a long time. And now it's the culture of death on steroids. And we're going to keep talking about it at the front line with Joe and Joe because we don't care. We put it out on the line because the truth needs to be told. So we're here, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, all right, and of course about 10, 15 different platforms because of our good friend Jonathan Ross. We want to ask you to please follow us. Like our page on Facebook, please share it with your friends. And also, please, if you could take the time, we're building our subscriber base on YouTube because we started them at different times. So if you could, when this show's over, which will be in a minute, please go over to YouTube, Frontline with Joe and Joe, hit subscribe, and please hit the little bell. That'll help us out tremendously. And also don't forget about the Crusade channel, that if you're interested in great radio from a great radio host, Mike Church, and a host of other people, Aaron Barker, Rick Barrett, brother Andre Marie, he's got a free 30-day subscription. And you could go to crusadechannel.com and you could check that out. We think you'll love it. In the meantime, it was a great conversation, one that needs to be had. And remember, until next week, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll see you next time.